Hello everyone, welcome to the fifth lecture of this crash course for your PMP certification exam. So if you are into project management and you are planning to write the PMP certification exam over the next few months, this free course on YouTube will equip you with all the basic details that you need to know about the PMP certification exam. So this is a series of 14 lectures and you can view all the 14 lectures of this crash course through the link here or through the link in the description section of this video. So make sure you do not miss any of these lectures of this free course on YouTube. I am Ray, a PMP certified project manager, and I have helped thousands of PMP aspirants like you to prepare for the PMP exam efficiently and pass it on their very first attempt. You can refer to my reviews on Udemy or the mentions on my LinkedIn profile. Now please note that this course is an abridged version of my full 35-hour training course on PMP exam that is available on Udemy. So if you like this mini version, please make sure you check out the entire course that is available on Udemy. The link will be in the description section of this video as well. So this video is the fifth out of the 14 lessons in this course, and in this lecture we'll be talking about the type of questions that you can expect in your PMP exam. So let's get the discussion started. Right, so in this lecture we will get a flavor of the types of questions that you can expect in your PMP exam. So we'll understand the different types of questions and we'll do it in a quiz format. So I will display the question first. You can pause the video, try to answer it, and then I will discuss the answer. Okay. I would recommend that you don't focus on your accuracy or your performance here, guys, because the intent is not to test you on PMP exam questions at this point of time. Okay. But it is more about helping you to understand the different types of questions that you can experience in your actual exam. Okay. So let's get started. Right, so the first type of questions that you will get in your PMP exam is the multiple choice type. So these type of questions will typically have a question stem, okay, which will be generally a scenario, a project management scenario, and it will have 4 options and only one option out of those 4 options would be correct. And your task would be to select that one correct answer from these 4 options. Okay, so you can pause the video here, try to answer this question before we move forward. Right, so the correct answer to this question is option C, which is project charter. Okay, so when you will be studying the syllabus of the PMP exam, guys, you will know that these kind of items, which are governance items, for example, in this question, which is a potential violation of the PII issue, generally these kind of policies and assumptions, okay, which has external regulatory factors, they are included in the project charter. Okay, so the correct answer to this question is option C, which is project charter. Now let's move on to the second type of questions. So the second type of question that you will get in your PMP exam is called the multi-select type, okay, or the multiple correct answer type. In these type of questions, there will be a question stem that will be provided to you, okay, and it will be asking you to select a number of options from the options provided already, okay. So for example, it's saying here that you need to select 2 options out of these 4 options. So mind it, guys, in the PMP exam, when you are solving a multiple correct answer question, it will always tell you how many options you need to choose from. Okay, so that makes your job a bit easier. Anyways, let's try to solve this question before we move forward. Right, so the correct answer to this question is option A and option B. Okay, so when you will be studying the topics of PMP ECO as you progress with this course further, you will know that these kind of principles, which is to enable the team for problem solving or to facilitate root causing sessions, etc., are core principles of servant leadership. Okay, C and D, which is to reward only top performers of the team, or escalating risks to the sponsor, is generally not a servant leadership behavior. Okay, so the correct answer to this question is option A and option B. Now let's move on to the type 3 question. Right. So type 3 question is called the drag and drop or the matching question. Okay. In this type of questions, PMI will ask you to drag and drop each term on the right hand side, which will be provided here, with its corresponding match on the left hand side. and the question will often tell you as well that all the terms may or may not be used. So that is up to your discretion. Okay, in the actual PMP exam, these boxes will be draggable boxes, guys. Okay, so you need to drag these boxes and fit it into these spaces which will be provided within the exam interface. Okay, so let's try to solve this question. You can match options A, B, C and D with whatever you think is right from options 1 to 5 here. Okay, so let's pause the video here, try to answer the question before moving forward. Right, so the correct answer to this question is 5 for A, 4 for B, 1 for C and 3 for D. Okay, and if you see here, we have not used option 2 because it doesn't really fit any of the execution approaches which has been provided here. So let's discuss briefly about each of these items. So constructing a dam is a civil engineering project, and generally civil and mechanical type of projects follow the predictive methodology. Okay, mathematical model to predict a rainfall. So here in this type of projects, you are trying to achieve a level of accuracy by iterating your mathematical model again and again. Okay, so that is a iterative type of project management. Moving on, relaunching a website with version improvements. That is incremental because you first release the base version, then you do some upgrades and the version moves on from version 0 to version 1. Then you do some upgrades again and the version moves on from version 1 to version 2 and so on and so forth. Okay, so you are building an initial version and then putting upgrades on top of that to improve the base version. Okay, so that is why it is incremental, because you are adding benefits incrementally. Okay, option D is choice number 3, which is agile. And when you are designing a new student database for XYZ university, it is generally an agile project because it's a new project and you are working with a totally open scope, right? So that is why the best choice for this type of project is the agile methodology. Okay, an interesting thing to note here is, guys, option number 2, which is to run a customer service center, is not classified as a project, guys. Okay, so when you will be going through the basics of project management, you will see that a project is a temporary endeavor which has a definite start and a definite end, which creates a value at the end of the life cycle. Okay, so that is very important for you to understand. An ongoing operation like running a customer service is not classified as a project. Okay, so the correct answer to this question is, as you see here on the screen, 5 for A, 4 for B, 1 for C and 3 for D. Okay, moving on. Let's now talk about the fourth type of questions which you can get in your PMP exam, and these are called hotspot questions. Okay, and this is typically how a hotspot question will look like. Okay, so there will be a question stem and there will be a diagram which will be given in the question itself, and within that diagram there will be clickable boxes which is like A, B, C and D in this diagram, and whatever is the correct option, you have to click that button to register your response. Okay, so for example, if you say that for this question your response is option C, so you need to click option C and the color of that button will change, which will notify you that your response has been registered. Okay, and then you can move on to the next question. So these are typically called hotspot questions because these represents like a hotspot map, and you have to identify the area or the hotspot of the correct option by clicking on the corresponding area. Okay, now I would like you to pause the video here and answer this question yourself before we move forward. Okay, now since this is a video, guys, you will not be able to click these buttons. Okay, but in the PMP exam interface these buttons will be clickable. But just for this question, read the stem here and try to answer it before moving forward. Okay, so let's start by reading the question first. Midway during a project, a new supplier becomes available who has shown enough confidence to execute a critical scope in the project in less than 2 months with respect to the original supplier time commitments. Okay, so it's a quite lucrative thing for you as a project manager. However, this will come at a cost upcharge of 2.5 times the baseline cost. Okay, now you have done your triple constraint analysis. Now triple constraint analysis typically means that you have analyzed your scope, you have analyzed your cost, and you have analyzed your schedule, and you feel that you should go ahead with this new supplier. And this can probably be because of the reason that the schedule acceleration that you will get by hiring this new supplier might outweigh the cost you will be incurring to get this new supplier. Okay, now that's a different discussion. Anyways, now in the interest influence grid as shown here, okay, which is this diagram, click on the option A, B, C or D corresponding to the area for which the stakeholders would most likely support your decision. So what is the correct answer to this question? On the PMP exam interface, on which option should you click to register your response? Okay, so the correct answer to this question is option D, guys. Now let's understand the reason why. So if we talk about option A, these are the stakeholders who have low interest and low influence as well. So most likely they are not your preferred option. Okay, so you might move on to the next option, which is option B. Now, these stakeholders who are in option B, they are typically like your CEO or CIOs who have a very high influence, no doubt, but the interest of these stakeholders in your project is quite low. Okay. Now, for example, your CIO, let's say, or your CEO has a lot of things to manage, administration, operations, projects. Okay. And for that reason, you can't expect that person to hold a very high level of interest in your project, which is very specific to your department or to your function. Okay. So for that reason, option B is out of the table. Okay. Now it's a close tie between option C and option D. Now the reason why option C is incorrect, because if you see the stakeholders in option C, they have a mid-level of interest and they have a mid-level of influence as well. Now if you compare the stakeholders of option C with stakeholders of option D, you will see that the stakeholders in option D has a very high level of interest in getting your project done, and they have a considerable level of influence as well. Okay, not as much as option C, but they have a considerable level of influence. Now these people can be your project sponsor, your program manager, your portfolio managers, etc. Okay, now why it is a good option to go with option D here? Because these are the people who has a very high interest in the success of your project, and if need be, these people can take the help of these people from option C to provide you as a project manager the right support for your decision. Okay, and that is because of the sole reason that these people, let's say your program manager or portfolio manager, or let's say your project sponsor, holds a very high level of stake in your project, and typically these people will have a very strong interest in the success of your project. Okay, and for this reason that we discussed, C might be a close choice, guys. Okay, but it is an incorrect choice, because these people who are sitting here might try to be politically correct. Okay, or they might have different priorities across different projects, which might be not a correct choice for you when it comes to this scenario where you need to get your decision going through for hiring this new supplier. So the correct answer to this question is option D. Now it is completely okay, guys, if you have not got this question correct. However, for the sake of this course, what is important is, number one, that you now know how a hotspot question looks like and how should you answer a hotspot question. And number two, you have understood the business rationale of choosing option D as the correct answer over option C. So now with that, let's move on to the next type of question for your PMP exam. So these are straightforward questions, guys. There will be a question stem that will be provided, and there will be indexes of fill in the blanks in the question stem, and you have to fill in the blanks with the most appropriate terms. Okay, so read the question and try to answer it before moving forward. Right, so the correct answer to this question is option D, guys, which is risk appetite and risk threshold. Okay, so when you will be studying the syllabus of the PMP exam, you will definitely understand the definition of risk appetite and the definition of risk threshold, and you will see that these are the two terms that is the best fit for option A and option B as provided in the question stem. Okay, so that is why the correct answer to this question is option D. Now let's move on to the next type of question. So this is the last type of question, which is a text fill-in question, guys. Okay, so in these type of questions, you will be having a question stem. There may not be a picture, but in the end, there will be a text box that will be provided to you, and you need to use the keyboard of your computer to type in the answer here. Okay, so let's try to solve this question before we move forward. So the correct answer to this question is $11,000. Okay. Now, when you'll be going through your cost management module, guys, there is a type of estimate which is called the 3-point estimate, which uses beta distribution. You will get to know that when you study the syllabus of the PMP exam. Okay, now this is the formula of beta distribution, which is your pessimistic estimate plus 4 times the mean estimate plus the optimistic estimate divided by 6. So it is P plus 4M plus O by 6. So if you apply that equation with respect to the numbers provided here, Your pessimistic estimate will be $13,800. Your mean or the most probable estimate will be $10,800. And your optimistic or the best case scenario would be $9,000. Okay. So if you use those numbers in this equation, the correct answer to this question is 11,000. Okay. Now take a note of this 3-point estimation and beta distribution, guys. Okay. And whenever you are studying cost management, please pay extra attention to this topic. But the intent of this question was to help you understand the text fill-in type question, because here you need to use your keyboard to punch in these numbers in the text box provided to you within the exam interface. That brings us to the end of this session, guys. Okay, so we talked about these 6 type of questions that you will be getting in your PMP exam, and these are the percentage distributions for each of these type of questions from the overall set of 180 questions that you will get in your PMP exam. Now, if you see here closely, guys, the maximum number of questions that you will get in your PMP exam will be the first 3 types. Okay, so now you know that whenever you are preparing for your PMP exam, which are the most important type of questions that you will be practicing from your question bank or exam simulator. So take a note of this percentage distributions as a key data point during the initial stages of your PMP exam preparation. Okay, I wish you all the best for your PMP exam preparation. Let me know in the comment section below if you are finding this course helpful for your PMP exam preparation. Okay, and now with that, let's move on to the next lecture.